The views expressed in this video are purely my own, and the purpose of this is to share my opinion on the show. This review will contain spoilers, so if you'd like to avoid having the show spoiled for you, you may leave now. While I can't stop you from being upset and hating me purely because my stance on the show is different than yours, i.e., I didn't like it while you did, I request that you at least try to remain unbiased and understand that not everyone will like everything you do. People are different and like different things. This is fine. There's no reason for you to be upset. With that said, please enjoy the video. Or don't. It's whatever. So sometime in 2013, the well-known Toonami started airing the fairly known Sword Art Online anime, alongside FLCL. Having been told semi-mixed things about SAO, I decided to check it out. And boy, what a waste of time that turned out to be. Now I should point this out before I go any further, I'm hardly a reviewer. As a matter of fact, the whole reviewer thing bothers me, because people put way too much trust in a total stranger's word on something, and they just have to trust that that person is being honest about whatever they're reviewing. I may go into further detail about what I mean in a later video, but I just wanted to get that out there as some food for thought. Based on the Japanese light novel series by the same name, Sword Art Online is an anime adaptation about a 14-year-old beta tester who goes by the online name Kirito, playing a game known as, yep, you guessed it, Sword Art Online. However, there's a catch to this game. Everyone playing it needed to be hooked up to something known as a nerve gear in order to play. In doing this, however, all the players have pretty much rendered themselves vegetables. Because of this, players are forced to keep playing and are actually put in a situation where real-life death is possible, i.e., if you die in the game, you die in real life. Players must battle their way through 100 floors of the land known as Aincrad if they ever hope to see the real world again. Throughout this journey, Kirito will make friends, foes, and encounter a really bad-looking CG dragon. But also, he'll find DB Cooper's lost treasure and realize that it was never about the items, but the friendship. Or wait, maybe that was something else. Oh. Huh. At about the halfway mark, Kirito and his accumulated posse end up in a situation where death seems to be getting too close for comfort. But once the threat is dealt with, another, far more menacing enemy is discovered. The creator of the game, Heathcliff, says that if anyone can defeat him right then and there, the game would be over and everyone would be free to leave. Naturally, for some reason, only Kirito is able to defeat him, so they fight. Heathcliff puts everyone besides himself and Kirito into a state of paralysis. They fight, and right as Kirito is about to die, somehow, Asuna is no longer paralyzed and ends up taking the sword strike from Heathcliff in order to protect Kirito, so she dies. Wanna know what happens after that? Kirito gets killed, explodes into sparkles, then comes back to life and kills Heathcliff. Oh, and it gets even better. In the next scene, not only is Kirito still alive, but apparently Asuna is too somehow, even though they very clearly both died. Nevertheless, when asked why he did it, it being killed all those people / put them in a situation where real-life death was an outcome, Heathcliff replies with the ever-dramatic, "I forgot that a long time ago." Wow, such power, many tier, very drama. After that, the show goes into a game known as Alfland Online. I guess it's supposed to be something dedicated to the memory of the ever-so-popular character Alf, but honestly I don't see it. It's a game about being a fairy. There's a joke here about Kirito being a homosexual, but I'll leave it alone, because it's probably been done to death. Just like Kirito's mom! Boom! Suck on that, Kirito! Anyway, after Kirito enters Alfland Online, adventures ensue and blah blah blah, nothing happens! But wait, rewind, why is he here anyway? Well, apparently Asuna never got out of the coma because the person in charge of the SAO servers wanted to marry her. So he made it so she wouldn't be able to leave until she was already married to him. Hold up a second. Legally is in there too for some reason. Wait a minute. Legally? You can legally marry someone in a coma? Alright, I've heard that people defend this as being part of Japanese culture. Now, I'm not saying it's not, but I can't imagine how it would be, and honestly, the people who said this were probably hardcore fans of SAO and would defend it to death. I actually decided to look this up, and I was greeted with many results. Let's see one now. Well, thank you for the information, Jordan. Anyway, we'll just call this guy Oberon, because I don't want to screw up the pronunciation of his actual name, even though I probably pronounced that name piss poorly anyway. Alright. So Oberon is made out to be super evil, pretty much sexually torments Asuna constantly. Why does he do this? I'm just gonna go with thinking the creator didn't know how to make an evil character evil, without making them do evil things constantly. You do know someone can be evil but also charming, right? To further explain this, let's look at Ted Bundy. Alright, let's quickly stop looking at Ted Bundy. Looks like a decent person, right? Kinda looks like Artie Lang mixed with Greg Giraldo, yeah? Bet you wouldn't have guessed that he was a vicious, evil serial killer just by looking at him, huh? According to reports, he was a charming, attractive, intelligent person, and with that, he was able to lure many women to their deaths. What does this mean exactly? It means that they really wanted to make sure you knew who the bad guy was, because anything too complex would have confused people, right? Yeah, sure, whatever. Is it the guy trying to screw this unwilling, underage, chained-up girl? Or is it, this rock? Of course it's the guy being evil! Here are some pros. There wasn't many, I'll be honest. The soundtrack wasn't the worst I've ever heard, but I've certainly heard better. It does what it needs to, meaning it helps out with ambiance, and it suits the world it created. However, with this, it's just easy to get it mixed up with generic medieval/RPG music. What I mean by this is nothing really stood out and impressed me. Every song was just kinda meh. Like I said though, it does what it needs to, but sadly, that's all. The world seems vast, beautiful, and interesting to explore. Sadly, not much of any of the three worlds, Sword Art Online, Outland, and the real world, are explored as much as they could have been. Still, I bring up the nice looking lands and art in this too, because I do in fact like some of the art and places in this show. However, much like a pretty skybox doesn't make a bad game amazing, nice looking art won't make an anime I dislike good. Wait, that's it? Wow, that's smaller than Kirito's dick. The show is seriously lacking in the animation department. Prima Donna Mai has better animation than this show. So SAO's original anime debut, according to my anime list, was on July 8th, 2012. Now keep that in mind for this. The animation in SAO is the worst thing I've never seen. See, I say never seen, because not only is the animation bad, it's just not there in general. Characters will stand around like lemons constantly. Not only do characters rarely move, but the show will randomly go into a close-up of an object when characters are talking, so they don't have to show mouth movement or body movement. You know, stuff that actually requires effort. It's not to say the object creation was easy though, I assume that took some doing as well. This happens so often that I made a game of it. How you play is you go to a random episode, go to a random time, and see if there's something that could be animated, but isn't. Or, if there's an object on screen and characters talking while the camera rubs its virtual junk on it. 95% of the time I won this game, but 100% of the time I also lost this because I had to watch this show. If you want to get a better idea of what the animation, or lack thereof, is like in the show, just pay attention to the first minute and a half of the very first episode, as it shows you all you need to know because that's as good as the animation gets. Close-ups of random objects, main characters barely being animated, let alone the background characters being animated. And when things do move, they just look ridiculous most of the time. It's exasperating! Remember how I told you the date of the original anime debut of SAO? Well, I wanted to bring up the fact that there's older stuff that has better animation than this. Cowboy Bebop is one, and that came out in '98. Frick, the opening of Bebop is more anime than SAO. Alright, my team of lawyers has informed me that they were able to obtain some never-before-seen footage from SAO, so I'll play it for you now as an example.
John down right now!
No, Kirito, it's too dangerous!
Anything to save you, Walter John! Triple touch and don't find him and this victory is
Kirito-kun, you is my hero! My body, it's all for you!
Oh God! Oh!
It boggles my balls when I try to wrap my head around what makes this show good in the eyes of so many people. Is it just because it's marketed towards people who enjoy gaming and MMOs in particular? Not sure if anyone noticed, but MMOs have quite a large following, and making a cheap, not great anime involving one would be quite beneficial. That's the thing though, it's all set in 2 games, but half the time you forget it's set in a game, because it just feels like more of a fantasy world instead of real characters being put into a game. So the show has to have characters talk about drop rates or stats, or other random gaming terms just so it can still be considered a game. Hey, anyone remember the part where someone mentioned food had a durability or something like that? Yeah, you get it? Because it's a game, do you get it? Wait, hold up a second. So a bunch of people in the real world can claim that games breed serial killers, and believe me, they will stand by that. But no one in the world SAO takes place in and cares that their kids, it's revealed at some point that the students at Kirito's school played SAO, so there was plenty of young players, We're playing a game that involved killing actual humans? Don't you think people would be a little apprehensive about letting their kids play another MMO right after they got out of one? Does no one see a problem here? Or hey, maybe you just issue a recall on all nerve gears. Remember the time a bunch of people died because of those? When all they wanted to do was play a freaking game? So much stuff happens that doesn't make sense, and I'm expected to take it at face value? Yeah, no thanks. I also love how Kirito is supposed to be this great, caring guy, but does anyone remember that time he got a bunch of people killed? Yeah, that entire guild. Instead of helping out, time randomly slowed down so Kirito could sit around jerking off while everyone else died. Then, in the very next scene, he's fine. Yup, what a hero. Oh wait, one person wasn't there? Oh okay, so he gets to live, right? Oh wait, he killed himself because all his guild died. Oh. Kirito is supposed to be perfect too. Each time he's close to death or actually dies, he ends up being fine. He goes through barely any struggles, and the ones he does go through end up being fine. Okay, let me put it like this. The creator is playing action figures with a friend, and Kirito is his figure. Each time the friend has their figure attack Kirito, the creator will step in and say, No, I deflected it. Then the conversation will go something like this. But I broke your guard. But Kirito has a dual swords so he can run really fast. That doesn't make sense. Also, every time you kill Kirito, he comes back and is stronger. Alright, screw you, you're uninvited to my party. Basically, it's a situation where the evil person ever winning was never an option because of witch granting. Kirito is perfect, he never dies, gets all the girls, and everyone loves him. Yeah, okay. Hey, anyone remember when Kirito was a believable character? Yes? Well, you're a robot and those are false memories. Oh, and if you thought you'd get through this without it turning to a harem, screw you, you picked the wrong show. Almost all the female characters Kirito comes in contact with end up falling in love with him. Lisbeth, Beast Tamer chick Asuna, frick, even his own cousin/sister, who will be known as Kusis now, has the hots for him. This kid ends the show being 17 years old, and he has at least 6 people, counting the 2 ambassadors who wanted to jump his bones, who wanna bang him. All he did was play a freaking game and he's swimming in women. Maybe the women just like Kirito because he's the only male around for miles and miles. It is an MMO after all, and as we all know, barely any dudes play those. The show also has an insane amount of wish granting, unseen character development, and it even throws in a time skip. And boy is it a major one. If the people in charge can't think of a way to get the characters out of the situation, they just throw in some retardedly stupid thing, like having Kirito be an extremely high level and be essentially invincible to the players currently attacking him, or Asuna being able to break the freaking sound barrier in order to stop someone from killing Kirito just as he's about to die. Most of the time the viewer is just left to sit there and go, huh, I guess that makes sense. Maybe. Well, they probably did all that in between the last episode and this one. And if someone objects to this and says, no, that is ridiculous, there is no way he is that high of a level, there was never an explanation of this, the show will basically just give you a slap and, if it could respond, say, yeah, Kirito's level 100 plus or something, yep. What, you didn't know that, viewer? Well, why not? We were very upfront about it. What's that? You say it clearly happened in between episodes? Well, screw you, no one asked you, get back in the box. This brings me to my next point. The fact that you never really see character development, but you're always led to believe it happened in between episodes. Yeah, that's great, just tell people character development happened, but they didn't get to see it. A great example of this is when Kirito ends up going to a shop in episode 5, A Crime Within the Walls, and it turns out that the shop belongs to Agile. Honestly, I stopped caring about pronunciation. Sorry. Now just stop and think. This show hasn't shown these 2 characters interact in quite some time. How do you think they'll react to seeing each other again? If you said anything besides they'll act like best friends who saw each other yesterday, you're wrong and the show will call you stupid for thinking that. Yep, Kirito and frickin' who cares really, have kept in touch, even though they barely had any interaction with each other. Oh, but don't worry, it gets better when Lisbeth enters the fray. Seriously, Lisbeth had 1 episode, and in that same episode she falls in love with Kirito, and I think she actually gets pissy at Asuna for not being good enough for him or something like that. Kids, this reminded me to warn you to not put your dick in crazy, and also to not let crazy put a dick in you or get close to you sexually or anything like that. You meet someone who falls in love with you in the first hour of hanging out with you, and actively hates your current partner while having no knowledge of them whatsoever. You run. Back on point, she was in one episode. But with the way the show works, the next time you see her, you're supposed to feel something other than the urge to give the screen the middle finger? Yeah, not happening, SAO. Let's talk about Asuna and Kirito's relationship, seeing as the second half of the show where Kirito ends up in Elfland. The only thing that really happens is romance, and even that is just sloppy. Kirito and Asuna fall in love because the plot demanded it. What? Do you think it was something that makes sense instead of just being told it makes sense? Are you seeing the pattern yet? I can't begin to try and decipher how relationships work in the SAO universe. I doubt the show is set on Earth because this can't be how the creator thinks relationships work. Confidence, being funny, kindness, muscle, etc. These things won't win the heart of someone, but the plot demanding you get a partner sure will. Thanks for that life lesson, SAO. The show has a nice convenient explanation for the romance blossoming too. Are you ready? Time skip! Yup, the show randomly jumps 2 years into the future because I guess the creator actually had no idea how relationships work. Or they just said, screw it, and went to jack off and have a nap. So, in that massive time skip, Kirito and Asuna are madly in love. Alright, that's fine, I'll just accept this. But one thing, does Kirito have no sense of urgency? I mean really, it's been 2 years and he has done pretty much nothing. Man, I can't wait to get blue-balled by Asuna for 2 years. That's the life for me. Christ, let me beat this game so I can go back to looking at birds. Now think. And I mean think. What would complete this romance? You've got a daddy, a mommy, and an annoying little lolly AI. Yeah, now you're getting it. Wait, huh? Yup, the show decided that in order to complete the illusion that Kirito and Asuna are a couple, they have to have someone call them mommy and daddy. I will never understand Yui's point in the show. I don't care how well explained this is, I will simply never understand it and I will never like her. Ever. The show tries to make her this big, huge part of the story, but she has 2, maybe 3 episodes before she dies, and the viewer is supposed to be sad when that happens? Frick, this may sound bad, but I was elated! Imagine my dismay when she came back in Elfland only to never die again. The characters seem to be on the same mental level as a sack of hammers, unless the show says they're not for plot convenience. A good example of this is episode 17, Captive Queen, in which Kusis, Leafa in Elfland, doesn't recognize Kirito in-game, even though he looks, sounds, and most likely acts the same way he does in real life. It also has a wildly inconsistent tone. Sometimes it wants to be action-y, the next it wants to be a comedy, then right into some romance and back for some drama. The tone also changes on a dime in addition to it changing from episode to episode, which isn't as bad as doing it in the middle of one. It's difficult to take it seriously when Kirito does something so idiotic you sit there stunned for a moment and think, wait, did that actually just happen? Does anyone remember the time he bit Leafa, Kusis, his hand, then claims it was a joke? What kind of idiot does that? Is this kid okay? I don't know if I should be making fun of him. Maybe he has some sort of issue where he has no idea what to do in social situations, so he just pisses himself and bites someone. Yeah, that makes sense. Who published and developed these games anyway? LJN? What, did they come back from the dead to make a couple more terrible games? If the show actually slowed down for a moment and just had some build-up, I could have liked it, maybe. But seeing as it's going at Mach 5, it's not something to do pointless things like develop characters or have a realistic / semi-realistic depiction of an actual relationship between humans instead of just sentient furniture. So it's just gonna glass over all that and say it was done sometime between episode X and episode Y, and the viewer's just gonna have to accept that and move on. Believe me when I say I could continue, but honestly this is looking really lengthy, so let's just stop here. I'll never understand why other people like it, frankly my dear, I don't care. If people like something, that's cool, they aren't hurting me, themselves, or anyone else, so it's whatever. However, if you get pissy at me for not sharing your love for the show, you can either leave or try to form a calm, collective response. I suggest doing it in the comment section. Oh, I almost forgot. Obligatory score! I'd say I have a score of 10. The show gets a nice solid lamp out of 10.